What makes truly smart people different? Not just intelligent people, not just the ones who score high on tests or speak with impressive vocabulary, but the ones who seem to navigate life with a certain calm clarity. The kind of people who walk into a room, say very little, and yet somehow shift the atmosphere. The question is worth asking: what separates them from everyone else? We often assume it's what they know. After all, we associate smartness with knowledge, facts and information. But if that were true, every person with a library card or a search engine would have the same presence. Clearly, it's not just about the information they carry. It's about how they choose to use it. Think about the people you admire, the ones you quietly observe. They rarely feel the need to prove how much they know. They don't compete in conversations trying to win every argument. Instead, they listen, they give space, they hold back. And in that restraint, they demonstrate a kind of wisdom that feels rare. There's a subtle discipline in the way they interact. You'll notice they don't share everything that's on their mind, even when they could. They don't broadcast their plans, they don't flaunt what they own, and they don't reveal every crack in their armor. They understand that silence, in many cases, is not emptiness, it's strategy. Why does this matter? Because in a world that rewards noise, attention, and constant visibility, the choice to remain selective is an act of strength. Smart people aren't quiet because they lack words, they're quiet because they know the value of timing. They understand that information is like currency. If you give it all away too quickly, you lose your advantage. And here's the paradox: while most of us chase recognition by sharing more, they gain respect by sharing less. The less they reveal, the more people lean in. The less they speak, the more their words are remembered. What seems like holding back is actually what gives their presence weight. It's not about being secretive for the sake of secrecy. It's about discernment, knowing which truths belong to you, which ones deserve protection, and which ones can be entrusted to others. This is not something you learn from books. It's a posture, a way of moving through the world with intention. So when we ask, what makes truly smart people different? Perhaps the answer is not in what they possess, but in what they choose to withhold. Their difference lies not in abundance of words, but in the wisdom of restraint. We live in a culture where sharing is celebrated. Post what you're doing, announce your next step, let the world know what you've achieved. The louder the voice, the more attention it attracts. It almost feels as though the value of a thought depends on how quickly it can be broadcast. But have you ever wondered if all this openness comes at a cost? Many people assume intelligence is proven by how much they know and how often they display it. In school, the ones who spoke up the most were labeled as bright. In meetings, the people who dominate conversations are often mistaken for leaders. But real wisdom doesn't play by those rules. It's not about how much you reveal. It's about knowing what not to say. Oversharing feels safe because it creates an illusion of connection. When you tell everyone what you're working on, when you expose your deepest struggles, it can feel like you're being authentic. But the truth is, giving away too much can dilute your influence. People may applaud in the moment, but what you lose is far greater control of your own narrative. The myth of oversharing is that it makes us more relatable, yet when every detail of our lives is available to anyone who asks or doesn't ask, something important disappears: mystery. And mystery is not about secrecy, it's about creating space for depth, for intrigue, for trust to grow at the right pace. Think about it. The people who always reveal everything, every thought, every plan, every frustration, eventually become predictable. Predictability doesn't inspire respect, it breeds indifference. Contrast that with the people who choose their words carefully, who share with intention rather than impulse. Their silence makes their eventual words far more powerful. Another illusion about oversharing is that it makes us appear smarter. We talk to prove our knowledge, to fill the silence, to make sure no one doubts our competence. But the smartest people don't compete in that game. They understand that silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. They don't need to announce their intelligence because the restraint already communicates it. There's also a practical danger in saying too much. Plans shared too early invite interference. Vulnerabilities revealed to the wrong person can be used against you. Achievements displayed too loudly can turn into targets. In a world where information is leveraged, giving everything away leaves you defenseless. Real wisdom lies in discernment. Not every truth belongs on the table. Not every plan deserves an audience. Not every feeling needs to be spoken aloud. Smart people recognize that words are not free. They carry weight, they create consequences, they shape perception. And so they hold back, not out of fear, but out of choice. One of the most striking habits of truly smart people is how carefully they guard their next move. They don't feel the need to broadcast what they're about to do. While many rush to announce their plans to the world, hoping for validation, support, or applause, smart people hold back. They understand that intentions are fragile, and the more you expose them to outside forces, the weaker they become. When you speak too early about what you're planning, you invite expectations. Suddenly, others are watching, waiting, and sometimes even hoping you fail. That pressure can weigh heavier than the plan itself. Smart people avoid that trap. They know that silence shields them from unnecessary scrutiny and keeps the focus on execution rather than explanation. There's also a psychological element at play. Talking about a goal can trick the brain into believing progress has already been made. The simple act of declaring, "I'm going to start this project," creates a false sense of achievement even though nothing has happened yet. Smart people resist that temptation. They delay the dopamine hit of announcing and instead commit themselves to the discipline of doing. Look at history, and you'll see this pattern repeated. Leaders, innovators, and entrepreneurs who made the biggest impact often work quietly in the shadows before unveiling their breakthroughs. Their strength came from focus, not fanfare. By keeping their next move hidden, they gave themselves space to refine it without interference. There's also a protective layer in this approach. Not everyone who listens to your plans has your best interest at heart. Some may discourage you intentionally or not. Others may imitate your idea, cutting ahead before you even begin. Silence becomes a form of defense, ensuring that when you finally step forward, you do so from a place of strength, not vulnerability. In everyday life, the same principle applies. The colleague who works silently and delivers results without hype often earns more respect than the one who talks endlessly about what they're going to do. The student who studies in quiet persistence outpaces the one who loudly declares their ambitions. Smart people play the long game, letting results speak louder than promises. This doesn't mean they never share. It means they choose their moments. They reveal their moves only when action has already given those moves weight. By the time they speak, their words are backed by results, and results are far harder to question than intentions. The power lies in restraint. Smart people know that announcing a move too early weakens its impact, while holding it back until the right moment magnifies its effect. They trade early recognition for lasting credibility, and in doing so, they gain an edge that others rarely see coming. When you meet someone who is genuinely smart, you'll notice something subtle. They rarely feel the need to flaunt what they have. Their worth is not displayed in flashy possessions, exaggerated titles, or constant reminders of their success. Instead, their presence carries a quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't rely on external proof. They understand that true wealth is not about what can be shown, but about what cannot be taken away. We live in a world where status symbols are everywhere. Expensive cars, luxury brands, curated social media posts. These things are designed to announce, "I've made it." But here's the truth: the louder someone tries to prove their wealth, the less secure they often feel about it. Smart people don't play that game. They know that real strength doesn't come from validation, it comes from substance. Character becomes their currency. When you interact with them, you don't remember the watch on their wrist or the bag they carried. You remember how they made you feel, how they treated others, how consistent their actions were with their words. That is wealth in its truest form, because it builds something money cannot buy: trust. There's also a freedom in not flaunting. The moment you define yourself by possessions, you become trapped by them. You have to maintain the image, feed it, protect it, and sometimes even fake it. Smart people step away from that trap. By not tying their identity to things, they keep their energy focused on growth, not appearances. Consider the people who truly inspire you. Chances are, it's not because of what they own, but because of who they are. Their humility makes them approachable, their generosity makes them memorable, and their consistency makes them admirable. The absence of showmanship doesn't make them less, it makes them more. Smart people also know that flaunting wealth can create distance. The more you showcase what you have, the more you risk alienating others. Jealousy, resentment, or mistrust can follow. But when you choose to lead with character, you build bridges instead of barriers. People lean in not because of envy, but because of respect. This doesn't mean they live without ambition or enjoyment. It means they measure wealth differently. Knowledge, relationships, peace of mind, and integrity hold far more value to them than external markers of success. They invest in things that last, not things that fade. And so, when you encounter truly smart people, you'll notice their wealth is quiet, but undeniable. It shows up in their confidence, in their values, in the way others speak of them when they're not in the room. Their wealth is not worn, it is lived. Smart people understand that vulnerability is powerful, but only when shared with the right people. They don't move through life hiding behind a mask of perfection, but they also don't expose their struggles to just anyone. They choose carefully where and when to reveal their weaknesses, because they know that trust is not something to be given blindly. In a world that often glorifies authenticity, it can feel tempting to lay everything out in the open. Our fears, our failures, our insecurities. But smart people see the difference between honesty and exposure. Honesty builds connection, while exposure can create unnecessary risks. Not everyone who listens is listening with goodwill. There's a quiet discipline in how they protect their inner world. They recognize that weaknesses in the wrong hands can become weapons. A careless comment, a small betrayal, or even subtle judgment can wound deeper than we realize. By being selective, they protect not only their reputation, but also their peace of mind. This doesn't mean they never open up. In fact, they value vulnerability deeply. But they reserve it for circles of trust, the people who have proven themselves through loyalty, empathy, and consistency. With those few, they are open, unguarded, and real. That's where their authenticity shines, because it's safe to let it. Think about how differently conversations feel with someone who guards their vulnerabilities wisely. They don't use weakness as a performance or as a way to seek sympathy. Instead, when they do share, their words carry weight. You know, it's not casual, it's chosen. That choice makes their honesty more meaningful. Smart people also understand timing. Revealing a weakness in the middle of a critical decision can undermine confidence, but sharing it later, when the moment is right, can humanize them and inspire others. They don't confuse timing with hiding. They simply know that every truth has its moment. And there's another layer: by not exposing every vulnerability, they create space for resilience. Instead of broadcasting every struggle, they process it, learn from it, and emerge stronger. They don't deny the weakness, they transform it quietly, and the growth speaks for itself. In the end, their careful approach to sharing weaknesses is not about being secretive, it's about being wise. They know that openness without discernment is not strength, it's exposure. By choosing trust deliberately, they turn vulnerability into a tool for deeper connection rather than a risk to be exploited. The reason smart people guard their plans, their wealth, and their weaknesses is simple protection. Not protection in the sense of fear, but protection as a form of strength. By holding certain things close, they maintain control over their own story. They understand that once something is shared, it no longer fully belongs to them. It belongs to the interpretation of others. Leverage comes from scarcity. When you don't reveal everything, you hold cards that others cannot predict. In conversations, in negotiations, in relationships, the one who knows more than they reveal often has the advantage. Smart people don't hoard information to manipulate. They withhold just enough to keep their position strong and their influence intact. Focus is another reason. The moment you announce your next move, you invite opinions, distractions, and noise. Everyone has advice, everyone has judgment, and before long your vision gets diluted. By protecting their intentions, smart people preserve their mental clarity. They can work without the weight of other people's voices shaping their direction. Control is perhaps the most important. In a world where narratives can be twisted, misunderstood, or misused, choosing what to reveal and when is a form of authorship. Smart people don't let others write their story for them. They decide which chapters to show, which to keep private, and which to share only when the time is right. It's easy to confuse this with secrecy, but it's not the same. Secrecy is hiding out of fear. Protection is choosing out of strength. The distinction matters because one comes from insecurity, while the other comes from clarity. Smart people aren't afraid of being seen. They just want to be seen in the right way on their own terms. There's also an element of self-respect. When you value yourself, you don't give every piece of yourself away freely. You understand that your ideas, your struggles, your resources have worth. By protecting them, you reinforce that worth. You signal to others that what you hold is valuable, and valuable things are never displayed carelessly. Even in leadership, this principle shows its power. The leader who reveals everything loses authority. The one who shares selectively builds credibility. People follow not just because of what is said, but because of the discipline shown in what is not said. That discipline creates trust because it demonstrates control. Protecting these things, plans, wealth, weaknesses, is not about being closed off. It is about choosing intentionally. It's about preserving leverage, maintaining focus, and owning the narrative of your life. Smart people understand that the less you give away without purpose, the more power you retain over your own story. The easiest way to see the wisdom of restraint is to compare it with the cost of oversharing. People who reveal too much often believe they are building trust or showing confidence, but more often than not, they are weakening their position. By opening every door, they invite others to walk in uninvited, and sometimes, those people don't leave things better than they found them. Opportunities are one of the first things lost. Imagine someone announcing every career move, every idea, every plan before it has matured. The wrong person hears it, takes the idea, or gets ahead of them, and suddenly the opportunity they worked for slips away. Not because they lacked ability, but because they gave it away too soon. Respect is another casualty. Constantly broadcasting every achievement can come across not as confidence, but as insecurity. The more someone talks about what they're going to do, the less credibility their words carry. Over time, people stop listening. Respect doesn't fade because of failure, it fades because of too much noise. Safety is perhaps the most overlooked. When weaknesses are revealed without thought, they can be used as weapons. A careless comment about finances, relationships, or personal struggles can land in the hands of someone who doesn't mean well. Oversharing creates openings, and not everyone who notices them has kind intentions. There's also the issue of trust. Paradoxically, people who share everything with everyone are often trusted less. When someone reveals private details too quickly, it raises the question, if they're this open with me, what might they be saying about me to others? Smart people know that trust is built on discretion, not exposure. We've all seen examples of this. The coworker who announces every step of their project but delivers little. The friend who tells everyone about their struggles but never grows past them. The leader who overshares in the name of transparency but ends up eroding confidence instead of building it. These are reminders that too much openness can harm more than it helps. In contrast, the people who hold back create a different impression. They may not say much, but when they do, it matters. They may not reveal every struggle, but the strength they carry is noticed. They may not flaunt their plans, but their results speak volumes. By saying less, they leave space for others to lean in, to wonder, and to respect. Oversharing may feel like connection in the moment, but in the long run, it can cost opportunities, respect, and safety. The ones who thrive are the ones who understand the balance. The art of revealing just enough to connect, while protecting enough to remain strong. What are you giving away too easily that's costing you power, peace, or progress? It's a question worth sitting with. Because every word we speak, every detail we reveal, every plan we announce has a cost. Some costs are small, but others quietly drain the very things we're trying to build. Think about the last time you shared a plan before acting on it. Did it push you forward, or did it slow you down? Did the validation you received make you more committed, or did it make you complacent? Sometimes, the applause we get from sharing robs us of the discipline to execute. The cost isn't obvious in the moment, but it reveals itself later when momentum fades. Consider how often we try to prove our worth by showing what we have. The car, the house, the title, the post online, it feels harmless. But what if that need to prove is costing you the respect that comes from humility? What if it's creating distance instead of connection? True power doesn't come from what's flaunted, it comes from what's undeniable, even without being shown. And then there's vulnerability. We all have weaknesses, and sharing them in the right place can build trust. But how many times have we given that part of ourselves to someone who didn't earn it? How many times has openness left us exposed, drained, or even betrayed? Protecting your weaknesses doesn't make you closed off, it makes you wise. The challenge is not to stop sharing altogether, but to share with intention. To pause before speaking and ask, who is this for? Why am I saying this? What might it cost me if I put it out into the world? Smart people ask these questions instinctively, and that's what sets them apart. Imagine if you began to hold back just a little. If you acted on your plans quietly until results spoke for themselves. If you let your character, not your possessions, carry your presence. If you chose carefully who gets to see your unguarded self. How much more strength would you carry simply by being deliberate? The truth is, power doesn't come from what you reveal, it comes from what you protect. Peace doesn't come from constant sharing. It comes from knowing you've given the right parts of yourself to the right people. Progress doesn't come from announcing every move. It comes from moving quietly until the outcome can't be denied. So the question remains, what are you giving away too easily that's costing you more than you realize?